Last week I discussed how the words of politicians are very cheap, but none are as empty as the words of former politicians who only wade into the battleground for freedom, culture and Western values after they've left office. I think it's embarrassing for them and, in effect, they're treating all of us like mugs, thinking we don't remember their action or their lack of action when they were actually in a place to do something about it. Well, one man that's been calling out for years now, and who was supposed to join us last week, but, the winter solstice got him, I think, is James Delingpole in the UK. I'm delighted to say he's joining me now from there. James, thanks for your time tonight. I've been very critical of Western politicians who have failed to do what was necessary while in office, but now profess to have the answers of what needs to be done to save the West. Why are so many of them so spineless when on the public purse, and suddenly so wise and courageous when they're not?
The reason that they're so spineless is because literally they have no spines, because they are puppets. They are not. We think, the ordinary mug punters who vote for them in elections and think they're going to change anything, and we're impressed by their manifestos and all their promises. We think that they're going to do our bidding because they're supposedly our servants. But the people really controlling these puppets are the globalists, organizations like the World Economic Forum or its kind of mini-me's like this new things that's supposedly going to change conservatism called ARC. They're all the same. They're controlled by the hedge funds, by international financiers, by the central bankers. They don't answer to us, and they haven't answered to us for a very long time. What they're very good at is talking a good game, saying the kind of stuff that we like to hear when they're on the election trail. But once they get into office, that's it. There's nothing we can do about it. They then move on to an agenda which has got nothing to do with anything that we want. So they're suddenly sending weaponry to Ukraine for this war that we've got no interest in. They're imposing lockdowns on us. I mean, actually, borrowing Chinese policy to lock us all down in our homes. That's never happened before in the free West. They're forcing us to take vaccines. This is our political class. They are lower than vermin, frankly.
It's a huge challenge, and let's just talk about the West per se for a moment, because that was the subject of this ARC conference. The Five Eyes, UK, USA, Australia, Canada and New Zealand, all rather emasculated and pathetic as far as I'm concerned. There are no real conservative parties left in those places. The EU, it seems to hate conservatism, and where there are independent conservative countries like Poland and Hungary, they get ostracised. They're all worshipping the fringe, they're loathing the underpinnings of our essential being. So I've got to ask, what hope is there, without being defeatist, what hope is there for the West to arrest this decline?
If you want my serious answer, it's that we're not going to solve this by bloody revolution, because that always ends badly for the people, because the state has the monopoly of power. The only and you look at the tyranny that was imposed on us during the COVID nonsense, what they got away with. And we're going to get more of that. They're going to try and bring that about again. They're going to try and encourage us to rebel violently so that they can then crush us. The only way is, I don't want to come over all Gandhi here, but kind of passive resistance. We've got to opt out of the system. We've got to recognize that when we vote for these people, they are going to betray us every time. We should stop being surprised that they're going to betray us, because that's what they do. They are traitors. They are not working for us. They're working for people over whom we've got no control and whose names we often don't know, and they've got unimaginable money. So the way we try and solve this problem is to try and make everything back to local, bring everything down to a local level, so that we can look in the whites of the eyes of the people who are making decisions that are going to affect our lives. And if we don't like those decisions, we can tell them so to their faces. That's the only way we're dealing with not just decades, but centuries of increasingly entrenched corruption. This system isn't going to be changed overnight. This is a long struggle we face. But we've got to, the first step is to realize our politicians are useless. They don't have any respect for us. They are not going to do what we ask them to do. So we should forget about them. We should not respect them. We should just give up on them. All of them.
Hey, James, I love the idea of this this localised focus, but doesn't that play into the hands of those who are pushing these 15-minute cities? You'll have everything within a 15-minute range, and you'll know everyone in there, and would it be aiding and abetting their agenda, even though it's unsympathetic to what you've said about
that's a really good
buying
question,
locally?
Hey, look, what we need to realise that 15-minute cities are not just a thing that's being imposed by your sort of local government in Australia and that is some sort of wacky thing that's not happening everywhere else in the world. 15-minute cities were invented by these people that I've been talking about. I call them the predator class. They are the true rulers of the world, the people who control our politicians through organizations like the Trilateral Commission, the World Economic Forum, the Committee on Foreign Relations. These represent the big families like the Rockefellers, which, by the way, are behind that war on farmers that you talked about in the previous section. They're behind the whole climate change scare. So we need to recognize that these fascistic measures like 15-minute cities are not coming at the local level. They're coming from the highest level, from a supranational level, beyond the power of governments to do anything about. So I know it seems like when I talk about local government, I'm supporting 15-minute cities. I'm not. We need to boot out of office all those local councils, local governments, which are pushing this green agenda, this anti-farming agenda, this 15-minute city agenda, and replace them by people who get it. And the way to do that is to talk about this stuff, and talk about the true evil intent of 15-minute cities, which is to lock us all down, keep us in our homes, starve us, make us reliant on big government. We've got to stop that, nip that in the bud. And the way to do that is to make our local politicians answerable to us, the people.
Okay, here's a real challenge for you. I'm going to say, with the exception of Trump in the United States, I do not see much difference between the right and left of politics in Western nations. They're just shades on a theme. They know what's best for us, and they want us all to do as we're told.
Yeah.
What's the answer to the West's problems if, we can't change the internal politics, or do we have to change the internal politics?
We've got to change the entire structure. At the moment, we've got a situation in every country in the West. We are voting for the uniparty. There is not a cigarette paper's difference in the UK between Conservatives and Labour. I imagine what I've seen in Australia, it's pretty similar. It's the same in Canada. It's pretty much the same in New Zealand. It's interesting. The Five Eyes seem to be particularly targeted by these globalist, tyrannical, predator class elites. So we've got to cease to show any respect, not that we had much anyway, but cease to show any respect for these stooges. Stop treating them like they matter. They don't. We've got to make them realize that we don't care about them anymore, because we've seen through them. We've seen through their wiles. They are not serving us. And that's not going to change.
Yeah, that's very true. Until we say enough's enough, we're not participating in this anymore. James Delingpole, it was worth the wait. I love talking to you, so thank you, and I hope to do so again before the end of the year. So thanks for joining me on Bernardi.